Hi, everybody. This is Marilyn. I am so excited to have you come today. I am not doing this live yet. I want to wait. I wanted to do a couple of things first, but I want to introduce myself. This is the first video I've done for Goldenrod Primitives, and I started it a couple of months ago, just kind of starting to get things on there, and you've been following me a little bit, and I thank you so much for everybody that's been following me, and if you want to share this, it would be really cool, because I am going to talk about something that's pretty important, I think, to all of us who purchase patterns, who design patterns, and who want to design our own patterns and not even sell them. But for people that really are going into business and selling patterns, you have to be very, very careful of what you do, because you've got people that are putting their hard-earned money into things, and and they want what they pay for. But before I get into that, let me just say I live in Florida. I am in North Florida, Northwest Florida. My husband and I, we've been married 46 years, and so he is going to help me out with this venture. He's going to be doing some building for me, and I'm excited about that. I also am a teacher by trade. I have been teaching middle school and high school students for, gosh, almost 30 years. And I'm a math and science teacher. And so I think I have enough experience to talk about my little problem that I was telling you about this morning. So I just wanted to let you know where the experience comes from and what I see in the classroom and why this is such an issue right now. So basically, I'm in my studio. My husband and I built a barn, and he built me a 12 by 24 room, and I will share with you later on all the different things, because I've got a lot of things to share. But I did want to share just a couple of things with you. I'm not going to move the camera around too much, but if you can see, let me see if I can do this. This is my grandmother's quilt that my grandmother and my great-grandmother did back in the 30s. It's very worn. And actually what happened with that quilt is that I was helping her clean out her closet one day. And I said, "Granny, what is that up there?" And she says, "Oh, just throw it away. It's just garbage." She said, "We used it so much, it's just garbage." And I said, "Okay, I'll throw it away." So I threw it away in my car, brought it home. My daughter had it hanging in her house for a while, but we had to take it down because the threads were just so bare, it was starting to rip. So we took it down. I have another one that I'll show you when I get this stuff off the chair over here. And it came from my husband's great uncle sisters, I think that's what my mother-in-law told me. And it's a beautiful quilt too. It's over 100 years old, and I'll show that to you in just a second. I don't want to not share that one also. I love antiques, as you can see, so my studio is going to have all kinds of antiques in it and things like that, so you'll see those as we go. So let me explain what I'm going to talk about today. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on it, but I just want to give you, because what I'll do is I will go in and I will give you a lesson on it later if you need to, and people may not need it, but then you never know. Again, like I said, I'm a math teacher by trade, so I know what the issues are when you're talking about mathematics, when you're talking about geometry. You're talking about all geometric shapes and things like that, and how lines have to, follow through, and how they have to meet and meet at the right angle for things to fit, at a certain angle. And if you're a quilter or a barn quilter, or if you are a rug puncher, or anything that has to do with geometric figures, you've got to be able to know that the lines have got to be straight, and they have got to be able to meet at a certain angle so that everything will follow through. So let me show you a couple of things, and then I'm going to show you just a few things on the ruler, and then we'll close it out for today. But then keep following me, because I'm going to show you some more things on the rulers, or the measuring tools, that you will need to know when you're trying to design something. And I'll share some things that I bought at Joann's. First of all, I'm also not only a quilter and a rug puncher, and I don't rug hook. I don't know how to do that. I punch, and I use the Amy Oxford tools and love it. And I bought some I think I've got like 5 now, so I'm really excited. They're all different shapes, and I'll share those with you. But if you need to, go onto Amy Oxford's website, and she'll tell you all about it. And then there's a lot of rug punchers have websites that show you different things too. And actually, I have to share with you with this. I've only been punching for a year. I went to a workshop last year, and I fell in love with the rug hooking, but I thought, wow, I don't know if I have the time to get into the linen and all the wool and things like that have been so expensive, at least to me at that time. And so I started thinking, well, what else could I do? And there was a lady there, and I'm sorry I don't remember everybody's names. And when I do, I'll put it in the chat box and let you know who the people were. But she showed me how to use the Amy Oxford hook. And it was just a 5-minute little thing. She gave me a piece of monk's cloth, and she gave me some rug wool yarn, and so I started playing with it, and then I went and bought a little pattern and started with it. It was really a rug hooking pattern, but I was able to punch on it because I was using the size 10 little tool, and it turned out really good. It was my very first one, and I've been hooked ever since. So what I've done is, if you see on the wall over here, and let me bring it a little bit closer. What I did was, a couple of years ago, I decided that I wanted to do some wool applique, and so I did this, and it was all, just learning, but that's where I learned about the Valdani thread, and I am in love with Valdani thread, so we'll talk about that later in another lesson. But anyway, so what I decided to do was, I really, really liked this pattern. It's one that I designed, and I called it Autumn Rays. And the reason I called it Autumn Rays is because it's got these rays up in the top. So I decided, okay, well, if I do that, then let me go ahead and design a rug. So I started designing the rug, and I got down to the bottom of it, and it just wasn't working out the way I wanted it. So I did something totally different. I don't know how much of this you can see because this is transparent, but I decided to do a lot of geometric figures, and I love the log cabin. So I kind of did a little bit of a version of the log cabin. So anyway, this is my rug. Now, and you notice that it has a lot of geometric figures in it. Okay, so this is another thing that I do that has geometry in it, is I do barn quilts. Okay, so here's my very first barn quilt that I did. I went to a class, and I learned how to do this when it's an Amish star. And the lady that was teaching it, she says, you don't need to do that Amish star. That one's too hard to do for the first one. And I said, well, I'm a geometry teacher. I can draw it out, because that's what we were doing. Well, it doesn't matter if you're a geometry teacher or not. You're not going to be able to get it done. And I did. I proved her wrong. I was excited. This is the one that I did for the Christmas holidays. And I'm trying a few more little things. All geometric figures, all squares. Doesn't look like it, but it's all squares and triangles. And then this one here is one that my daughter and son-in-law gave me when I first got into quilting. And they bought it at a store. Can't remember the name of the store. And I came home, and I got online, and I asked, and it's made out of steel. And it's been hanging on my wall outside for a couple of years until I started making my own. And again, geometric figures. So what am I telling all of this to you about? And why am I going into this? Okay, so this morning I was on Facebook, and I was reading all of my friends that I have on Facebook. Don't even know their names, probably. I mean, I'm in so many groups that I don't know everybody's names, and it's just, so they're all my friends. And one lady showed a picture, and it was of a pattern that she had purchased from someone. She paid a lot of money because it was already written, it was already drawn on linen and everything. And the thing is that it was just, she showed some pictures, and it was something that was just, it was a distraught for me. I think because I again, am a geometry teacher and a math teacher, and I saw how the lines were crooked and how the lines didn't meet and how the angles didn't touch and all of that. And so that kind of got off on me, and I thought, well, wait a minute now, that maybe, because I am a math teacher, maybe I shouldn't be so hard on everybody. And then I got to thinking, well, wait a minute. She bought this from somebody. She paid really good money for this because it was on linen, so you know how much that is. And it really bothered me that went out. I don't even know who did it. It was just the way that she showed a couple of little lines and how nothing met and how it was all crooked and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, okay, well, let me show everybody what I use to get those lines really straight. Now you have to be able to, divide all of the blocks up into divisible parts, because if you don't, it's not going to come out straight. It's not going to come out even. And if it doesn't come out even, then what happens is that, everything's going to be lopsided on your design. So I went to Joann's and I bought a whole bolt of this. Okay. It's 1 inch by 1 inch. The whole bolt was like $30 something, but I used my coupon and I got it for half price. But it's called True Grid 1 inch grid, and it's an interfacing, but it's really not. I use it for tracing. I mean, you can use it as an interfacing if you want to. It's made out of Pellon. It's made out of the same stuff that you make interfacing out of. But because it has the little 1 inch blocks, it's very easy to draw and to get your lines straight. So when I start to design my patterns, I use those squares and I begin designing, okay? Now, one of the things that you're gonna notice, and you wouldn't notice it unless I show it to you. When I got into this, what I did is I drew my flowers first. I said, okay, well, let me draw my flowers. And I couldn't find my pattern from last year when I did that, so I had to redraw them. And I did that, and then I went in there and I thought, dadgummit, my squares are off. So one of the things I learned when I first started teaching is the best way to learn something is to teach it. So I went in and I thought, okay, well, how would I teach this in my classroom? Do the geometric squares first. Do your outlining first. Get all of your borders first. All of the geometrics that you want on there, get that in there so it's in line, so that it measures correctly, so that everything is equal. And then after you've done that, then go in and do your freehand. And it will help, okay? It will help you to get everything exactly the way it's supposed to be, okay? Now, these measuring tools, now my mother-in-law gave me these when she moved, and she gave me this one, and she gave me this one. Now, if you're a quilter, you know what these are, but the thing is that I don't like to use these on my quilts because I'm using Sharpie markers and all that kind of stuff on these. So I have these that I use for my pattern designing, and then I have my other ones that I use for my quilting. Each one of these are separated into 1 inch. And then of course you've got, your 1/8, your 1/2, your 1/4 and all of that. You have all of that. So that works with your pattern piece. So whenever you're doing everything, making sure that everything fits here as well as there. And you've got two things that you can actually look at, okay? Now, I guess I don't want this to go over 15 minutes, and I'm at 13 right now. I just wanted to let you know that when you do start to do a pattern, when you start to measure something, you need to start where the very first line is. So on this one, the very first part is here. It's on the end. So you would start at the end. But if you have a ruler or a measuring tool or a straight edge that has the first line a little bit in, that's where you start measuring. Because if you don't, you're going to be 1/4 inch off on everything, okay? But again, you have to look at your measuring tool before you make that decision, okay? So I guess my thing is that you need to practice. You need to practice on a small piece of grid paper first before, or you can practice on this. It's not that expensive. But before you start to put it on your monk's cloth or your linen or whatever, make sure that the pattern or the design that you're doing, make sure that it looks even. Make sure that it's, if you want it to be balanced, make sure that it's balanced. If you want something on one end, it's not quite so bad. But again, if you're using geometric figures of any kind, you have got to make sure that those lines are straight, those borders are straight, those angles are even, because if you don't, when you start punching or you start hooking, the fabric tends to pull anyway, and then you're going to have a messed up piece of mess there. So you don't want to spend all that time and all that money on a piece of linen when your design is not drawn well. Okay, so that's all I wanted to talk about today, was just how to use that one piece of material and these measuring tools to get your geometric shapes straight, and start out on the border first, get that done, and then come in and do your freehand after you get all your little shapes and all your little triangles and all your little squares exactly the way you want them. Okay, leave some comments down in the chat box, because I really am interested in knowing if you have designed some patterns in how you do yours, because my designs may not be the same as yours. My way is not the same as yours. As a math teacher, you know there's always more than one way to do things. So I'm interested in knowing where you're from. Share if you want to, and check back soon, because I'll be having some more things on here. Okay, guys, have a great day. Bye-bye.